Oh man, we got a crazy crossover this week. Lions desperate for a win. Giants, what is going on?
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I welcome in everybody. Matt Derry with you, Locked On Lions. Patricia Traina, one of the legends of our network, Locked On Giants on this Thursday crossover as we get you ready for Sunday's 1 o'clock tilt at Ford Field as Detroit tries to bounce back from Sunday night's loss to the Eagles. The Giants have lost 5 in a row, worst record in the league at 2-9. And our crossover Thursday presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Patricia, great to see you. I don't even know where to start. I mean, the drama is immense there in Gotham City and New Jersey. And I don't even know what storyline do you want to start with?
I don't know where to start. I mean, we were talking off the air about how I remember back in the day, we would talk about football. Everything was about football, and all this extra drama stuff would be nothing. But you know what? When you have a losing team, a team that has lost its way, this is what you get. And of course, a lot of drama, some of it involving Cam Scatterbo, who, was part of the WWE, what was it, Monday Night Raw, I think it was.
Monday Night Raw.
That event.
Yeah.
That, it is what it is. Abdul Carter drawing some headlines this week for. Initially, it was reported that he slept through a meeting, which he denied was not the case. And it was since clarified that that wasn't the case. But I guess if we're going to talk about storylines and keep it football related, let's talk about Jaxson Dart. Jaxson Dart is in the latter stages of the concussion protocol. The feeling is that he will play. Mike Kafka, the interim head coach, said that, there's no reason why he wouldn't play if he is cleared. But there's been a little debate there about whether they should sit him an extra week or two. So from my perspective, look, I don't think I would sit him. I think I would play him, but I would cut back on the design runs. He's got I think the 4th most design runs amongst quarterbacks in the NFL. And remember, he started in week 4. So, it's not like he started back at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So I would maybe cut back on some of them until this kid kind of gets it through his head to stop being so reckless and stop trying to be the hero. And that's I think I'm going to be a big thing to watch this weekend when the Giants face a very, very good Detroit Lions defense.
It's wild here, like you mentioned with drama. I mean, there's a little bit here just because the Lions lost. They scored 9 points in Philly, and you guys have seen the Eagles already twice, so but it just, that drama pales in comparison to what you're going through with sleeping in meetings. I remember I watched a Giant game earlier in the year, and they had Abdul Carter lined up at inside linebacker, and I'm like, what are they doing? I just don't understand a lot of the stuff they did all year. Russell Wilson, and obviously now they go to Jameis, which was always fun, but I mean, you haven't had your share of weird storylines this year, Patricia. That's for sure.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah,
I'm still trying to figure out some of what they're doing. I mean, obviously we had the coaching change a couple weeks ago. Mike Kafka is settling in, I think, in that role. It's a 7-game audition for him. I'm not sure what it's going to take for him to get the job permanently. I don't know if he's even in the running, but just the whole season has just been an absolute disaster for the Giants. And, there's some bright spots to look forward to for the future. Jaxson Dart, Malik Neighbors when he comes back healthy, Cam Scatterbo when he comes back healthy, but they got to fix the defense. And that's probably the other thing that we're not talking about enough this week because of all the drama going on. And that is the Giants defense continues to be bad, with the exception of maybe Brian Burns. We'll give Brian Burns a pass here. But, the run defense getting gouged. I mean, I'm dreading what the Lions are going to do against that run defense. The back end of the defense is a mess. I mean, and Shane Bowen still has a job. Explain that to me.
Oh my gosh. Lions and Giants, it's interesting. It never seems like these two teams are good at the same time. When the Giants had their run and the Super Bowls under Parcells, the Lions are bad. Lions have had some success against New York recently because the Lions have been better, and the Giants, like you said, under Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, pretty bad. It's interesting. The Lions, for a storyline this week for your listeners, Patricia, they need this game. They have got to win this game. This is they're 10.5-point favorites with our friends at FanDuel. There's no messing around this week. They've got to win and get their confidence back. And it's not like they're not confident or they don't think they can do it. They're 6-4. They're not 4-6. They're not in trouble, but the Bears keep winning and finding ways to win. The Packers are ahead of them despite all their injuries in the division. And nobody thought that on November 19th, November 20th here, that the Lions would be in third place in the division. But they've got such an arsenal. They've got so many weapons. Certainly missing Laporta and losing Laporta for the next 3-4 weeks hurts. But there's too much talent here to not play a little better. And be interested in seeing how Dan Campbell handles the offense this week. And like you said, if Dart is back, it makes it intriguing to watch the Lions defense, which has been really good, going up against a kid that at times, I know the Giant fans have seen it. There's flashes there with him, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, there hasn't been a whole lot to be excited about if you're a Giants fan or if you're following this team. It's just, like I said, it's just been an absolute cluster, you know what. But there are some things to look forward to for the future. And unfortunately, I feel like I say this every year for the last several years to Giant fans, to my listeners and my readers. Next year, there's some things to look forward to. But having been burned several times and having said that, I would also say that, if they make the right moves and don't do anything stupid, which unfortunately always seems to pop up.
No, it does. And that's the thing with these two organizations right now. There's such stability here in Detroit with Brad Holmes at the very top as a general manager. People love ownership and what Sheila Ford Hamp has done. I know there's some very angry Giant fans not happy with JM up there. And then certainly coach. I mean, Dan Campbell, yes, he's taking a little bit of heat over the last few days over the play calling in Philly and the 0 for 5 on fourth downs, the a fake punt where the Eagles defense remained on the field expecting the fake and they still ran it. And Grant Stewart, the up back, got the ball and just jumped into the line like it was a ball pit. But there's too many weapons here for this team with Jared Goff, this offensive line, which needs to play better, by the way, but the St. Browns and J-Mos of the world and the two backs to not put up a ton of points this week. And like you said before, when the Giants defense has been getting gouged, especially on the ground. I'm stunned at how bad Dexter Lawrence has been. Mike Valenti, one of our talk show hosts here in Detroit's a big Giants fan, and Mike's even said, well, wait till you watch Lawrence play. He got paid and he's been bad. Has it been that bad for Dexter?
Sort of. I mean, Dexter, you look at what he did last year, and that's not something that I think you would expect year in and year out from his position. That being said, the biggest concern I have about Dexter Lawrence, and I think the biggest concern a lot of people have about Dexter Lawrence, he's not beating solo blocking. Okay, we can understand double blocking, triple blocking, and all that stuff, but solo blocking, he should win that stuff, and he's just not doing it as consistently as he was last year.
Makes no sense because he's such a talented guy, and I've always said I said I would have loved to have seen Aleem McNeil next to somebody like Dexter Lawrence, and actually the Lions' defensive tackles have actually been pretty good this year, but it's certainly been disappointing on the defense side. You said Shane Bowen still has a job. Is there any way he gets relieved of his duties, or are they just keeping the staff as is the rest of the way?
Right now, I would say it probably looks like they're going to stay with the status quo. I mean, look, after the Lions game, they have the Patriots scheduled for Monday Night Football, and then there's the bye, and then there's 3 more games left. At that point, you might as well just finish out the string. What good is firing him at this point? I mean, if they were going to fire him, they should have fired him after the Denver game. That was the time to do it. And they kept with him, and at this point, I think he makes it through the rest of the year. And sad to say, if there's another fourth quarter collapse where the defense fails to protect the lead, I'm going to probably say it again. I mean, my listeners will probably get tired of me saying, why does Shane Bowen still have a job? But, it is what it is. It's getting late in the year. And, what are you going to do at this point? Is it really worth it? The season's down the tubes. I don't want to say that they're tanking because I don't believe in tanking, and I don't believe that they believe in tanking. But, best case scenario, I guess, is to finish with as high of a draft pick as you can, and then maybe look to trade that to a quarterback needy team to see if you can't stock up on assets, which is what I think they're going to do if they land in that top, 5, top 3 range in the draft order.
That is the voice of Patricia Traina, Locked On Giants, Matt Derry, Locked On Lions. When we come back right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, we're going to talk key matchups on a crossover Thursday brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Speaking of our friends at Prize Picks, nothing is better than having some fun on a Sunday and playing Prize Picks. We make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action than right now with Prize Picks. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup. You can play anywhere. And Prize Picks operates that includes California, Texas, and Georgia. All right, I've been using Prize Picks during football Sundays and NBA tip-offs. It keeps every game exciting. You can bet on things like Steph Curry points, threes, assists. You can do that all in the same lineup with the new Stacks feature, which is a game changer. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Thursday crossover, Matt Derry, Patricia Traina, Locked On Lions, Locked On Giants. We do this each and every Thursday right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. Key matchups for this one. Patricia, you mentioned it before. Why don't we both dive into this? Because it's pretty obvious. Lions need to run the ball better. They need to get David Montgomery more involved to go with Jahmyr Gibbs. And when those two are going, they're really, really good. Giants have not been able to stop anybody on the ground, including this past week, until they got hurt Josh Jacobs and what the Packers did. And obviously those games against Denver, and I can recall watching the Bears game, there were issues there. What has happened? And do you see a scenario where it gets worse? Because the Lions, if they can run the ball and keep the Giants offense off the field, that's exactly what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to run the ball, run it to the right side, because that's where teams have been hitting pay dirt. And for the life of me, I don't know what it is about the Giants' defensive left side that's just not setting the edge. They're just not getting off blocks. They're getting caught inside, and teams have been able to exploit them from the offense's right side. So, obviously, that's also, I guess, where you have the tight end working, to help out with the blocking and whatnot. But the Giants aren't getting off blocks. I mean, I see bad run fits. I see guys that are just taking poor angles. There's all kinds of things going on, and it just blows my mind because, this is something they go over. They practice all this stuff, and then they go out there, and it looks like they didn't do a darn thing to work on it. So that would be, a big concern for me, the run defense against the Lions running backs. I think that's a huge, huge matchup. From the Giants' perspective, I'm going to say the Giants pass rush needs to take advantage of the Lions offensive line. And in particular, I believe your tackles are banged up a little bit, if I'm not mistaken.
A little bit.
Yeah. So that's a matchup I think they've got to win. The, Brian Burns has been just absolutely outstanding this year. Probably one of the few guys we could say that about. Kayvon Thibodeau, I don't know if he's going to play again this week. He was out last week with a shoulder injury, didn't practice on Wednesday. I don't know if he's going to play this week. We'll have to see what he does on Thursday and on Friday. But, so it's too soon to tell there. And then you have Abdul Carter, who's kind of been like he's getting pressure, but he's not getting home with sacks and just really affecting things. So, I'm not sure how they're going to play that out and whatnot. But the Giants, if they want to win a matchup, that would be a really good one, I think, to start with. And that would be, of course, getting to the passer and disrupting things in that backfield.
Yeah, you mentioned before, I think Penei Sewell's fine, and he's been unbelievable at right tackle. He's one of the best in the league. Taylor Decker has a shoulder and a knee that he's just been bothered by all year. And you're right. The matchup to watch is, does Brian Burns have a game where he's able to get around Decker a couple of times on Goff's blind side and forced just, an errant throw, a fumble. Lions have had issues protecting Goff the last 3-4 weeks. And a lot of it's coming interior, but you're right. Burns v. Decker is definitely something to watch. Now, if Goff gets some time, what I want to watch is the struggles of your young corner, Devontae Banks, against any of the Lions receivers. If they can get St. Brown on Banks, I think it's lunchtime. I think it's a great opportunity for the Lions to kind of feast. Amon-Ra had just 2 catches on 12 targets Sunday night against the Eagles. That cannot happen again. Jared Goff was asked the other day on the radio on a hit he does on a midday show here. Hey, if you and St. Brown, are you guys not on the same page? It's like, it's one bad game. We're on the same page. Our connection's fine. So watch for 16-14 in terms of Goff to St. Brown a lot in this game. And like I know they've picked on him, and I've heard the media in New York be all over Banks. Has he been that bad, or is it an entire secondary problem?
Oh, Banks has been that bad. Absolutely. You watch him and look, he's got all the talent in the world. He's got the talent to be one of the top cornerbacks in this game. What he lacks, I think, is a combination of the want to and confidence. If he gets burnt or beaten, suddenly just everything goes out the window with him. And you watch him play, and there are plays where it's clear he's mailing it in. And it's very frustrating. It's interesting. Wow. Last week, Paulson Adebo was supposed to return from his knee injury because that's who Banks and Corey Black, who's a rookie, they've been rotating and filling in for Paulson Adebo. At the last minute, Adebo was a scratch because his knee still wasn't quite right, and it's still not right. So I don't know that he's going to play this weekend. But, I think what the Giants will probably look to do, and I don't know if this is going to be the answer, but maybe they'll have Cordell Flott on St. Brown. Cordell Flott has played a little bit better than, that combination of Black and Deontay Banks. So maybe they'll flip things around, have, Flott travel with St. Brown and see if maybe they can, stop any bleeding right there before it starts. But to your point, no, Banks is just, he looks like he's given up.
Call him Devontae. It is Deontay, like you said, and this was a high draft pick. I mean, this was a kid out of college, like you said. Everybody loved and everybody lauded that pick when Joe Shane took him. Yet I know it has not worked out. Interesting, you mentioned Kayvon. Obviously, the Lions passed on him years ago to take Aiden Hutchinson. I bet he's going to want to play in this game. Not to thumb his nose at Brad Holmes and the Lions, but anytime a team passes you, and there was talk about Tibbs maybe to Detroit. Chance he plays, you mentioned before, you won't know, but tell us a little bit more about that injury.
Yeah, he's got a shoulder injury. And it's kind of interesting because usually when the Giant players are injured, you don't usually get to them in the locker room. They're usually not out there. They're getting treatment. And I had spoken with him, last week. He was around the locker room from what I understand this week. Yeah, I don't know that he's going to play. I really don't. I don't know how bad that injury is and how that's affecting him. So again, the jury's still out on that one. But if he doesn't, it'll give Abdul Carter another opportunity to start opposite Brian Burns. But Abdul Carter needs to pick up his game as well. And right now, it's interesting with Abdul Carter, they've had him do so much, which is typical for a rookie. And I think his head has been kind of spinning as he's trying to figure out, okay, where am I, what's my niche at the NFL level? And I wonder if perhaps if they keep him in one spot, at that outside linebacker spot and don't move him, as a spy, don't have him as an inside linebacker and so forth. Maybe things settle down a little bit and start to click for him. So I think Abdul Carter is going to be somebody to watch. Plus, I think he's going to be motivated this week after the quote unquote embarrassment that he had last week against the Packers, where he was benched for a series for, again, what was reported sleeping through a meeting, but actually he missed not a meeting, a walkthrough. He missed the walkthrough because he was getting treatment, and there was a communication breakdown where he didn't get the memo on the time change.
Got to be at practice, got to be in meetings. No question about it, especially when you're a young player and a guy that was drafted in the top 3. Watch the Lions defense. Patricia been very good this year under Kelvin Shepard. And with all the injuries, Neighbors, you mentioned Scadaboo's out. Dart's not 100% yet. Lions defense has played very, very well. All right, coming up next, how do the Giants pull this off and how do the Lions win? We will get into that as well here on a Thursday crossover, Locked On Lions and Locked On Giants. And we told you earlier, the spread on FanDuel, 10.5 for the Lions over the G-Men on Sunday from our friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back too, and there's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Our listeners here on Locked On Lions and viewers love the Pistons. Patricia's got Knick fans all over her feed. Could we be seeing a Pistons-Knicks Eastern Conference Finals coming up? Want to get on some of this NBA stuff? You can with FanDuel. Even if you missed the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Patricia, Lions and Giants Sunday. We mentioned before the double-digit underdog that is the New York Football Giants as they've lost 5 in a row. How do they pull this off, though? They nearly beat the Bears a couple weeks ago. They had a lead this past Sunday against Go Pack Go, Peter Bukowski's Packers. Pete was in the house the other day at the Meadowlands. They blown a couple of late leads in other games. Like, how do they stay in it and pull this off?
Well, first off, they've got to not make mistakes. They're not good enough to overcome mistakes. We've seen that many, many times. But, I'm going to sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, but it starts with the run defense. I mean, they are giving up close to 6 yards per carry on first downs against the run. You cannot let a team go into second and short and third and short and expect to win. It just doesn't happen. So that run defense has got to tighten things up. Interim head coach Mike Kafka spoke about how there was going to be some different drills that they were going to do this week in practice in an effort to tighten things up a little bit. So we'll see if that pays off for them. So that would probably be the first thing. The other thing on the flip side, I'm going to stay with the run here. The Giants' run game has actually been picking up a little bit since the Scadaboo injury. And that's not a reflection on Scadaboo. That's actually a good thing for the Giants because that means their offensive line, which has been an Achilles for I don't know how long now, has actually been performing better. So I think if the Giants can soften the Lions' run defense up a little bit, pick up the yardage, and not have to use Jaxson Dart to do it, which is the important thing, especially with him coming off that concussion, then maybe, perhaps, that opens things up for play action. That opens things up for them to take a shot or two down the field, But the important thing for the offensive part of you, Jaxson Dart can't force things. He can't play the hero. He's got 10 other guys with him. He's got to just kind of take what's there and be smart about it.
I think those are all great points. I mean, you look at the Lions and what it's going to take for them to win. I don't know, show up. I'm just kidding. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. No, they got to put the ball in the end zone. I mean, bottom line is they scored 1 touchdown this past week in Philly. And I know 2 weeks ago against Washington, they put up a 44 burger on the Commanders, but being in that division, that Commanders defense is pathetic. And JV compared to what we saw with Philly the other day, that's a damn good defense. But protecting Jared Goff first and foremost, and I know and I've said it yesterday on my show on our Tuesday's show, David Montgomery's got to get more involved. 6 carries, which he had Sunday night, is not going to cut it. Jahmyr Gibbs is probably their best player right now, and he's got to go crazy and do his thing. And getting Jahmyr the ball in space is always the game plan. But Montgomery just eases the tension. He's so steady. And like you said, they're giving up 6 a pop on the ground on first down. Why not start the game maybe with Gibbs out wide, put him in motion, have Montgomery in the game at the same time, and make the Giants think, all right, we got to shadow and follow Gibbs wherever he goes. Oh, hold on. Here comes Montgomery up the gut for a 6-7 yard punch. And now you're talking 2nd and 3 to start. just kind of settling things down for this offense. I think that's going to be a huge part of this game. And defensively, the Lions just have to keep doing what they're doing. They've been wrapping up and tackling very well. The secondary, hopefully we'll get some guys back this week, but they've done a really good job. I know the Giants, without Neighbors, you look at that receiving core and go, who are these people? But defenses has to keep doing what they've been doing. Stay out of the penalty box. I sound like I'm talking Rangers wings here, but it's true. Stay away from penalties, late hits, Brian Branch, helmet to helmet. Just play a clean game this Sunday and keep doing what they're doing defensively, because they've been really excellent. And nobody thought, Patricia, everybody said, though, what's the Lions' identity? Well, it's always been their offensive line, which is not as good this year, and their offense. And now all of a sudden, this has become a better defense than offense right now. It could change this week. But that's kind of something we're not used to.
But you never know. That's why you line up and you play the game. I mean,
exactly.
I'm not anticipating the Giants winning this game. I think they're going to lose by 2 scores. And
Yeah.
I've made a vow that I am not going to pick the Giants, much to, I think, the dismay of some of my listeners and readers. But I need a reason to believe.
Yeah.
I really need I picked them a lot earlier in the year. I actually thought that they would maybe have a chance with, a few breaks here and there. And if they played solidly and stayed healthy, I actually thought at one point they might go, win 8 games, maybe even 9 games. They have not given me a reason to believe. And, I get it. There's been injuries, but you can't hang your hat on that and say, oh, that's the reason why this season is lost. They haven't played well on defense. They've got a top 15 talent defense that has not played like a top 15. And, I'm going to beat the drum until the end of the season about the job the defensive coordinator has done. Offensively, the changeover and quarterback. I mean, if that's what you wanted to do, why didn't you just do that right out of the chute? It's like you wasted 3 games. And I don't know if it was because they wanted to wait until Andrew Thomas came back at left tackle or what the reason was, but it was just, they ended up changing the offense totally to fit Jaxson Dart. Now, is it a little bit better than what they were running under Russell Wilson? I think it was, but just I don't know what the Giants are doing in sometimes, and I take pride in knowing that, at least seeing what they're trying to do, even if I don't agree with it. And just this year, it's just been one head scratcher after another.
Well, speaking of head scratchers, Jonathan Vilma is calling the game, so enjoy that. He's done, and I said this yesterday, he's done 5 Lion games this year. I can't take it. Thank God I will be in the stadium Sunday, because I'm not, and you're not traveling, you're not coming?
No, I'm not making this one.
So if you can somehow turn the volume down and turn on Bob Papa and Carl Banks, that's what I would suggest. So try to sync your television, because Vilma is he's a piece of work. But Patricia, great to see you. Thanks so much as always. And I know we got Friday shows tomorrow to kind of keep this thing rolling. So always a pleasure talking to you, my friend.
Same here, Matt.
Patricia Traina, Locked On Giants. Matt Derry, Locked On Lions. Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. Don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms. Check us out on our Locked On Lions and Locked On Giants YouTube channels. We are back with Friday shows tomorrow, and then Sunday, 1 o'clock for the Lions and the G-Men.